Before we begin, make sure you're alone. Close your eyes. Listen to the rain. Because every story has a heartbeat, and some refuse to stop. You're listening to Bloody Chapter. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that haunt the mind long after the sound fades. Tonight's story: Don't Blow Out the Candle. Where love checks in, but never leaves. The rain had started before sunset. Not a downpour, just a steady, whispering drizzle that made the trees outside sway like they were breathing. Emma Holt pressed her forehead to the window and watched the rain track silver lines down the glass. Halloween night. Her first one in the new house. The farmhouse had been sitting empty for almost 7 years before she bought it. The realtor had warned her, in that polite, rehearsed tone people use when they're afraid of sounding superstitious. Locals say the house doesn't like its lights going out on Halloween. Emma had laughed. She wasn't the superstitious type. She was the practical one, a schoolteacher, logical, steady. At least, that's what she used to be. Before the accident. Before the quiet started following her home. The old clock in the hallway ticked unevenly, its gears catching on the seconds. Somewhere deep in the house, a pipe shuddered. She tried to distract herself by unpacking. The last box was labeled Fragile, Living Room. Inside were a few framed photos: her mother, her late husband, a trip to the coast years ago. She set them on the mantel one by one. When she straightened up, she saw it. A candle, sitting in the front window. Thick, ivory-colored. She hadn't put it there. She froze, eyes narrowing. The wick was unlit. She was sure the windowsill had been empty earlier. She whispered to herself, probably just something the last owner left behind. She didn't light it. She didn't move it. She told herself she'd throw it out in the morning. But as the sky went dark and the neighborhood lights flickered on, that candle was no longer just there. It was burning. At first, she thought it was a reflection, lightning maybe, but when she turned off the lamp, the flame stayed. Soft, flickering, like someone breathing through it. Emma stepped closer. The air around it felt wrong, cooler, as if the flame was pulling the warmth out of the room. On the windowpane, something faint glimmered, a set of smudges, like fingerprints pressed from the outside. A knock came then. Not on the door, on the glass, from the other side of the candle. She stumbled backward, her breath catching. The knock came again, soft, rhythmic, 3 times. Emma turned on every light she could reach. The flame didn't go out. It just leaned toward her. Her phone buzzed, a text from her neighbor, Martha. "Hey, I see the candle's back. Don't blow it out. Seriously, just let it burn till morning." Emma stared at the message. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. What candle? What happens if I do? No reply came. The rain outside intensified. Wind pushed against the glass. Somewhere in the darkness, she swore she heard a woman's voice, faint, pleading, "Don't let it go dark." Emma sat up all night watching the flame. Every time she blinked, it seemed smaller, weaker, as if something was trying to take it. Around 3 a.m., exhaustion won. Her eyes closed. When she woke, the sun was rising, and the candle was gone. Only a puddle of wax remained, hardened into a shape that looked disturbingly like a handprint. The next day, Emma went into town. At the grocery store, she casually asked the cashier about her house. The woman's smile faltered. "You bought the old Hutchinson place?" Emma nodded. That's the one where the teacher died. Years ago. Left a candle burning in the window every Halloween. Folks say it keeps her soul from wandering. The year someone blew it out. The cashier's voice lowered. They found him in the field. Burn marks all over, but no fire. Emma tried to laugh it off, but her stomach twisted. She didn't believe in ghosts, but she did believe in patterns, and the candle had appeared on its own. That night, the power went out. The rain came harder, sheets of it beating the roof. She lit a flashlight, then froze. Because the candle was back. Already burning. Already waiting. She stared at it for a long time. What do you want from me? She whispered. The flame bent, fluttered, and, impossibly, it grew taller, stretching upward. For a moment, it formed the shape of a woman's face. Familiar. Almost like her own. Emma backed away. The flame snapped back to normal, flickering gently. The air filled with the faint scent of rosewater and smoke. A voice echoed in her mind, not in her ears, a whisper she couldn't unhear. Keep me alive. For 3 nights, the candle returned. Each time, a little closer to the center of the house. Each night, the whisper louder. Emma stopped sleeping, stopped eating. She left notes for herself, reminders that this was real. On the 4th night, Halloween Eve, she decided to end it. She couldn't take the whisper anymore. The candle waited on the kitchen table, flame steady in the dark. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder rolled somewhere deep in the sky. She took a deep breath, leaned in, and whispered, "I'm sorry." Then she blew it out. The sound that followed wasn't silence. It was breathing. Slow, heavy, wet. Right behind her. Emma turned, flashlight trembling in her hand. The beam caught something, a reflection in the window. A woman, standing where Emma had just been. Identical face. Identical eyes. But hollow. The figure smiled, faintly. "Thank you," it whispered. And then it stepped forward, into Emma. The power returned all at once. Every bulb in the house flickered violently. The mirror over the mantel cracked. Emma fell to the floor, gasping, her skin burning with cold. When she opened her eyes, the candle was back in the window, burning brightly. But her reflection in the glass wasn't hers anymore. By morning, the neighbors saw the light. They said Emma must have forgotten the old rule. Every year since, on Halloween night, a new flame has appeared in that window, no matter who lives there. Sometimes it burns quietly until dawn. Sometimes, it goes out. And when it does, someone always disappears. The rain has stopped. But if you ever see a candle burning on Halloween, don't touch it. Don't question it. And whatever you do, don't blow it out.
The rain started early that October, steady, unbroken, washing the color out of the town long before Halloween ever arrived. Every morning, the sky hung low and grey, like a ceiling about to collapse. And on the far end of Bellevue Street, where the asphalt cracked into mud and roots, sat the last house anyone wanted to see. They called it the Halloway House, though no one remembered who the Halloways were. The story went that the wood itself came from a shipwreck, that the walls whispered in the wind, that every Halloween, someone new moved in, and didn't last till November. But legends are cheap, and Daniel Hurst didn't believe in legends. He just needed a place to start over. Daniel's life had split cleanly in half, before the divorce and after. He didn't drink, didn't fight, didn't even raise his voice, but something about the silence between him and his wife had hollowed him out. He told himself the move wasn't running away. It was healing. The house was cheap. Too cheap. The realtor smiled too much when she handed him the keys. He didn't notice how her hands trembled until later. The first night, he unpacked enough to find his coffee maker, an old armchair, and a blanket that still smelled faintly of her perfume. He sat by the window, watching rain slide down the glass like veins on skin. Peaceful, almost forgiving. By morning, that peace had changed. Daniel opened the front door and froze. 3 pumpkins sat neatly on his porch. He hadn't carved them, hadn't bought them. Each one had a different expression, a wide smile, a deep frown, and one with eyes carved too large, too human. Across their bases, one word stretched through all 3, welcome. He chuckled under his breath. Probably kids. Halloween pranks. He threw them in the trash and went back inside. But when he made coffee, the faint smell of burnt wax drifted through the kitchen, and from somewhere deep in the walls came a low, dragging scrape, like a knife carving would. That night, he dreamed of orange light flickering behind his eyelids. He woke to thunder, heart racing, unsure why. The clock read 3:12 a.m. And from outside, that same soft scrape. He told himself it was branches, just the wind. But he didn't sleep again. By morning, there were pumpkins again. Not 3, 4. They sat in a perfect square at the top of his steps. The carvings were different this time, smaller, more intricate. Daniel crouched closer. The lines weren't random. They formed rooms. His rooms. The kitchen. The hallway. The living room. Every detail exact. Even the dent in the floorboard by the fridge. Someone had been inside. He ran through the house, checking doors, locks, windows. Everything was secure. And yet, when he looked out the window again, the pumpkins glowed softly in the rain, like they were watching him. He didn't go outside again that night. The next morning, something changed. His reflection was wrong. Just slightly, the jawline sharper, the eyes duller, the skin a little grey. He told himself it was the lighting, lack of sleep. He didn't notice the 5th pumpkin until he tripped over it. It sat directly in front of the door. No face, no markings, just smooth, pale skin. And beside it, a wood-carving knife. Old. Sharp. The handle worn smooth as bone. He hesitated, then picked it up. The blade was warm. Too warm. He set it on the counter and left it there. But that night, as the rain fell harder, he could have sworn he heard the faint sound of carving, coming from the kitchen. He didn't look. He couldn't. By the 7th day, the house had changed. Not visibly, but in the way it felt. Every room breathed differently. The air moved like it had lungs. He found fresh scratches on the doorframe, thin, deep lines that hadn't been there before. And when he followed them, he realized they connected. A continuous carving pattern, wrapping along the baseboards and up the stairwell, like a pulse. At 3 a.m., he heard the scrape again. This time, from the attic. He climbed the stairs slowly, flashlight trembling in his hand. The air thickened as he reached the top. The smell hit him first, sweet rot, candle wax, and damp wood. He pushed the attic door open. The beam of light caught them one by one. Dozens of pumpkins. Hundreds. Stacked, lined, glowing faintly from within. Each carved, each different. Faces, rooms, entire scenes captured in orange flesh. And in the center, one empty pumpkin, the largest of all, uncarved, waiting. A whisper cut through the rain. "You came back." Daniel froze. The flashlight flickered. A figure stepped out from behind the pumpkin stacks. A woman. Her eyes black hollows, her face half frozen in a carved smile. Her voice was soft, almost kind. "You built this place once, didn't you?" He shook his head. "No, I just bought it." "Not this house," she said. "Every house. Every wall that holds a secret. Every board that breathes. You were the first to carve them open." She ran her hand along a pumpkin, and it flared to life, showing his kitchen, his face, his hands moving like a craftsman's. The knife. The wood. The beginning. He stumbled backward. "I don't understand." "You don't have to," she whispered. "You just have to finish." Daniel turned and ran. The attic steps groaned beneath him. He reached the hallway, only to find it gone. The walls had changed. They were smoother now, seamless. The doors had vanished. He pressed his hand against the wall. It was warm, and beneath his palm, a heartbeat. He backed away. The walls pulsed again, this time harder. Then came the sound. That same slow scrape, but now from everywhere. He spun around. The carvings along the baseboards were moving, deepening, extending, crawling across the floor, the ceiling, the walls. The house was carving itself. He ran to the window. Lightning flashed. His reflection looked back, but it wasn't him. The figure behind the glass smiled first, then raised its hand. In its grip, the same knife from his kitchen. It pressed the blade to the inside of the glass and began to carve letters in the reflection itself. "Last one." The words glowed faintly orange, bleeding through the rain. He turned to run, but the floor gave way. He fell through darkness, through layers of wood and dust and whispers. When he hit the ground, the knife was in his hand. The walls around him pulsed with light, carved patterns flickering in rhythm with his heartbeat. He felt it then, the truth he hadn't wanted to see. Every cut, every groove, every pumpkin. It had been him all along. His hands, his mind, his need to make something whole again. The house wasn't haunted. It was remembering. And now it was finishing the work he'd started. He screamed as the walls closed in. They didn't crush, they shaped. Each groove pressed against his skin, carving deep, slow lines. The pain wasn't sharp, it was patient. The rain roared outside. The sound of carving filled the air. Then silence. They found Daniel 3 days later. The realtor stood in the rain, holding a new for sale sign. She didn't go inside. She just looked at the porch. 4 pumpkins. All new. All freshly carved. The first 3 said, "Daniel was here." The 4th said, "Stay." And half buried in the mud beside them, the handle of a knife. Old. Rusted. The name barely visible, Hurst and Son Carpentry. Now the house waits. Every Halloween, another light flickers in the window. Another name carved beneath the porch. Neighbors say if you walk by when it rains, you can hear the sound of knives in the walls. Slow, steady, almost rhythmic. And if you listen long enough, you'll feel it too. A faint vibration beneath your skin. The house remembering you. Because some homes aren't built to be lived in. They're built to live through you. To carve what's left. And to keep carving, until you're part of the story. OUTRO, you've been listening to Bloody Chapter, where every story has a heartbeat, and some refuse to stop. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that haunt the mind long after the sound fades. The rain had been falling since morning. It wasn't the wild kind that came with thunder or wind, just the steady rhythm that wrapped the whole town in grey, like a blanket you didn't ask for but ended up needing. By night, the whole street looked blurred, like someone had taken a wet brush to the edges of every house. Porch lights glowed behind curtains. Plastic pumpkins flickered through fog. And under it all, the soft, endless rhythm of October. He lived alone, Daniel Kerrigan, 37, insurance adjuster, the kind of man who kept track of small things and forgot the big ones. He hadn't planned on doing anything for Halloween this year, but that changed around 8:30 p.m., right after the second cup of coffee, right after he decided the night was safely uneventful. Because that's when someone knocked. Not loud, not impatient, just there. 3 soft raps against the door. He glanced up from his paperwork, frowning. No one ever knocked on Halloween night this late. The neighborhood was quiet, too old for trick-or-treaters, too polite for drop-ins. He stood, sighed, and walked toward the front door. The sound of rain filled the pauses between each step. When he opened it, there was no one. Just the smell of wet leaves, the quiet hiss of rain, and something small at his feet. A mask. White. Smooth. With a grin carved into it that looked more painted on than sculpted. The smile curved too wide, the teeth too even. He picked it up. The surface was slick with rain. Cold. No note. No packaging. Just the mask, and that grin. He turned it over. The inside was damp, but clean. It shouldn't have felt heavy, but it did. He stepped back inside, shut the door, and set it on the counter. For a while, he just looked at it. Then, shaking his head, he muttered, "Some kid must have dropped it." But the grin didn't look like something a kid would drop. It looked like something someone left behind. That night, he couldn't sleep. The rain got heavier, beating softly against the windows. He turned on the TV, muted it, and let the flicker fill the room. Every time he glanced toward the kitchen, he could see it. The mask, on the counter, lit in flashes from the television. That grin, it seemed wider in the dark. He told himself it was nothing. Just the shape of the shadows. The angle. The storm. But around midnight, when the power flickered, the screen went black, and for half a second, he thought he saw a reflection. Not of himself, but of someone standing behind him. He turned. Nothing. Just rain. Just silence. And the mask, still sitting there, facing the door. The next morning, it was gone. He searched the counter, the floor, the hallway. He even checked the garbage, wondering if he'd thrown it out half asleep. Nothing. Fine. Maybe it was a trick, some local kids having fun. He'd seen the news stories, porch pranks, Halloween hijinks. But that night, at 8:30 sharp, 3 knocks. He froze. The same rhythm, the same sound, the same quiet between them. When he opened the door, there it was again. The mask. Same grin. Same place. Only this time, there was mud on it. And something new, a faint, wet footprint on the welcome mat. He stepped outside, looking up and down the street. No one. Just rain and silence. He crouched, picked up the mask, and whispered, "This isn't funny." His voice didn't echo, it just disappeared into the rain. He dropped it into the trash can outside, slammed the lid, and locked the door. That night, the sound came again. Not a knock this time. A scrape. Like something brushing against the window. Once. Twice. Then gone. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. But when he looked toward the kitchen window, the reflection caught it, the curve of a smile, pressed faintly against the glass. He didn't sleep after that. He called in sick the next morning. sat by the door with coffee, watching rain crawl down the glass. The world felt smaller, as if the house had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. By evening, he was exhausted. He turned on the porch light, just to feel like the outside world still existed. That's when he saw it. The trash can. The lid was open, empty, and sitting neatly in front of the door, on the mat, was the mask. This time, the grin was different. It wasn't painted anymore. It was carved. Jagged, deeper, the mouth open wide, as if the mask had reshaped itself into something hungrier. The rain was heavier now, pounding, unending. He whispered, "Who's doing this?" And then it came again. Knock. Knock. He stepped back. The sound wasn't from the door. It was from the window. He turned slowly, heart pounding. Through the blur of rain and glass, a shape. Still. Facing him. Head tilted. The mask's grin gleamed in the lightning. He grabbed his phone, dialed, but the screen flickered, froze, then went black. The house hummed. Lights flickered. And beneath it all, the soft, hollow sound of someone breathing. Inside. He moved toward the sound, slowly, quietly. The living room was dark except for the occasional flash of lightning. Something wet dripped on the floor. He looked down. Footprints. Bara. Muddy. Leading from the door to the hallway. And there, at the end of it, something white. The mask, lying face up. The grin stretched to the edges now, carved so deep the cheeks had split. He reached for it, but the moment his fingers touched it, the lights went out completely. The darkness swallowed everything. Then, knock. Once. Then again. Twice. From behind him. He turned. No one. Only the sound of rain. And the faintest whisper, "Smile." They found the door open the next morning. Rainwater pooled across the floor. The coffee cup sat cold on the counter. The papers untouched. No sign of Daniel Kerrigan. Only the mask, back on the porch. Smiling. Still wet. And beneath it, carved into the wood, the smile that knocked twice. The rain hasn't stopped since. Some nights, it sounds like someone knocking, softly, politely, just twice. People say it's the wind. Or maybe kids. But the thing about smiles is, once you see one where it shouldn't be, you start to wonder if it ever left. You're listening to Bloody Chapter. Stories that haunt the mind long after the sound fades. Like, share, and listen again, if the rain lets you.